In the near future, an uncrewed space probe returns from Mars to Earth's orbit with soil samples, potentially containing evidence of extraterrestrial life. The probe is collected by the International Space Station, where exobiologist Hugh Derry revives a dormant cell that quickly grows into a multi-celled organism. A group of schoolchildren vote to name the organism Calvin. An atmosphere change in Calvin's container causes it to enter hibernation. To wake it up, Hugh administers an electric shock.
Calvin
Becomes hostile, wrapping itself around Hugh's hand and crushing it. Calvin escapes its enclosure by fabricating a tool and devours a lab rat, growing in size. Engineer Rory Adams rescues Hugh, but Calvin grabs onto his leg, prompting Dr. Miranda North to seal the lab. After Rory fails to kill Calvin with fire, the organism kills him by forcing itself down his throat and assimilating his organs. It escapes the lab through a vent. The crew attempts to inform Earth, but the station's communication system shuts down before the entire message can be sent. The station commander, Ekaterina Golovkina, performs a spacewalk to find and fix the communication system. Calvin attacks Kot and damages her spacesuit. As her suit fills with coolant, Kot returns to the airlock. Against Dr. David Jordan's wishes, Kot sacrifices herself to keep Calvin out of the station. However, Calvin latches on to the station before she drifts into space. Calvin attempts to re-enter the station through its maneuvering thrusters. The crew fire the thrusters to blast it away, but the loss of fuel causes the station to enter a decaying orbit, where it will burn up when it re-enters Earth's atmosphere. Systems tech Sho Murakami suggests using the remaining fuel to get back into a stable orbit, even though it will allow Calvin to re-enter. The crew agree as Hugh says Calvin could potentially survive re-entry. The crew plan to seal themselves in one side of the station and quarantine Calvin in the other, before venting the atmosphere to kill Calvin. Unbeknownst to Hugh, who is a paraplegic, Calvin attaches itself to Hugh's leg and uses him to slip out of the quarantined area. The crew discovers Calvin feeding from Hugh after he collapses, as Hugh dies from blood loss. Sho seals himself inside a sleeping pod, while Calvin tries to break inside. David and Miranda use Hugh's corpse as bait to lure Calvin away and trap it. As they vent the atmosphere from Calvin's area, a spacecraft approaches the space station. Miranda informs David that having received most of the original distress call, the protocol would be for Earth to send a Soyuz spacecraft to push the station into deep space to stop Calvin from reaching Earth. Unaware that the new craft is not a rescue, Sho opens the hatch to the new craft. Calvin follows him and kills the Soyuz's crew, and the airlock between the Soyuz and the space station is breached. Sho sacrifices himself in another attempt to launch Calvin into space. The Soyuz disconnects and crashes into the space station, knocking it back into a decaying orbit. David and Miranda try to trap Calvin in an escape pod. Once inside, David will pilot the pod containing Calvin into deep space, allowing Miranda to return to Earth in the other pod. David leads Calvin into his pod by baiting it with oxygen sticks and launches into space. As Miranda launches her pod, she records a black box message to warn Earth of Calvin's intelligence and deadliness. Both pods are hit by debris from the damaged Soyuz. One pod ends up landing in the South Pacific Ocean and is found by Vietnamese fishermen, while the other pod flies away from Earth into deep space. The fishermen look inside the Pod S window to see Calvin enveloping David in the entirety of the Pod S interior. Miranda screams in horror as her out-of-control pod drifts away from Earth. The unsuspecting fishermen open the pod's hatch door despite David's pleas not to. Thanks for watching. Follow for more.